Hello, and welcome to our video on George Washington quotes. George Washington was the first president of the United States, the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army during the American Revolution, and one of the founding fathers of the nation. He is widely regarded as the father of his country and a symbol of American democracy. In this video, we will share with you some of his most memorable and inspiring quotes from his speeches, letters, and writings. Let's start with a quote from Washington's farewell address to the Continental Army, which he gave on November 2, 1783, after the Treaty of Paris ended the war with Britain. He thanked his soldiers for their service and sacrifice, and urged them to maintain their unity and loyalty to the new republic. The citizens of America are now possessed of absolute freedom and independency. You have assisted in protecting the rights of human nature and establishing an asylum for the poor and oppressed of all nations and religions. Next, we have a quote from a letter that Washington wrote to his nephew Bushrod Washington on January 15, 1787, when he was preparing to attend the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. He expressed his hopes and concerns for the future of the country and his willingness to serve it once more. Be courteous to all, but intimate with few, and let those few be well tried before you give them your confidence. Moving on, we have a quote from a letter that Washington wrote to John Adams on December 18, 1799, 4 days before his death. He apologized for not being able to attend Adams' inauguration as the second president of the United States and offered him some advice and support. I can say with truth that one act of Mr. Adams' life, and one only, ever gave me a moment's personal displeasure. I did consider his last appointments to office as personally unkind. He had not one day before he went out of office made me acquainted with what he intended to do. Next up, we have a quote from Washington's first inaugural address, which he delivered on April 30, 1789, at Federal Hall in New York City. He acknowledged his lack of experience and qualifications for the presidency and expressed his humility and gratitude for the trust placed in him by the people. It would be peculiarly improper to omit in this first official act my fervent supplications to that almighty being who rules over the universe. No people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men more than those of the United States. Moving on, we have a quote from the Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation, a book that contains a set of maxims that Washington copied as a young man from a French etiquette manual. The book shows how Washington cultivated his manners and morals throughout his life. This quote is one of his rules for polite and respectful behavior. Every action done in company ought to be with some sign of respect to those that are present. Next up, we have a quote from a letter that Washington wrote to the governors of the states on June 8, 1783, after the end of the war. He thanked them for their cooperation and assistance during the war, and urged them to promote the common good and the public happiness of the nation. He also emphasized the importance of religion and morality in the new republic. I now make it my earnest prayer that God would most graciously be pleased to dispose us to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion. Moving on, we have a quote from Washington's last will and testament, which he wrote on July 9, 1799, 6 months before his death. He expressed his wishes for his estate and his family, and also freed his slaves and provided for their education and welfare. He also declared his faith and his hope for a peaceful departure. I hope someday or another we shall become a storehouse and granary for the world. These are just some of the many quotes that George Washington left behind for us to learn from and admire. He was a remarkable man who made a lasting impact on history and on the hearts of his countrymen. He was a true leader, a warrior, and a patriot. We hope you enjoyed this video and found some inspiration from his words.